Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Alrighty, welcome back, everybody. Yes, today, Tommy Tickenoff. Tommy, please tell us where you're calling in from and what you do for a living with Byproducts Group.
So we're at Northern California. We're in the heart of the Central Valley. So Turlock is the town we call home here, but we're in the heart of arguably one of the most bountiful agricultural regions in the world. So we're right in between Sacramento and Bakersfield, which is the heart of almond walnut country here in California. We touch a range of products in our business, from almonds, walnuts, pistachios, but also sweet potatoes, grapes, all things byproduct we specialize in here in California.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know we were just chatting about it off the air here for a second. Tell me a little bit more about Byproducts Group, and specifically, I suppose, what got you involved in this type of a business? I mean, can you tell me a little bit about your background that led you up to getting involved in a like this?
Yeah, so I think to date myself, I've been in the almond industry for 17, 18 years. I started out after college working for another family's farming operation. My dad was a pharmacist, not a farmer, so I didn't have any acreage to start taking over as a family. So I realized that I needed to figure out something on the marketing and sales side, if not the business side, that wasn't just producing on the agricultural side. So I worked for a couple brokerage houses throughout my career and found this niche in byproducts. And by byproducts, we mean edible nuts, almonds, walnuts, pistachios, but also feed for cattle feed, for bird food. We've even been involved in some aquaculture projects as well. So we literally touch all things byproduct in the state, and generally that, between 2 to 5% of production from these agricultural products. But by value, it's a lot less than that. So we see ourselves as a service organization as well as, a buying and trading arm of these various commodities. So on the upcycling front, we're trying to maximize returns to growers, but that means finding the best and most active home for things. That term has been coined as upcycling in the last couple of years, which we were upcycling before upcycling was cool or a thing. But, we'll take sweet potato coals and then dry them down and then turn them into a pet food ingredient for dog treats. We'll take almonds and walnuts that have cosmetic blemishes that won't make them their way into the consumer, say trail mix pack or, your confectionery side, and we'll make that into a bird. Of recent, we've started to press almonds about 5 or 6 years ago using a cold press, and that's on into our other business, Fresh Vintage Farms, which is an almond and walnut oil business that we're in. Whole Foods, Raley's, Erewhon, Gelson, a few hundred retail doors up and down the West Coast. And so those companies kind of work symbiotic in with one another, but the bulk of our business is done through Byproducts Group. And a lot of that is domestic, but we also export to Europe, Japan, Korea, edible almonds, but feed commodities as well. So pretty diverse organization that we've grown over the last 6 or 7 years significantly.
Oh, that's awesome. And so it seems like, the Byproducts Group was kind of your, the B2B start with, getting into the space and using this upcycling angle with these food producers that were essentially, I don't know what they were doing before, probably just wasting this 5 to 10% of what they were producing before they ended up selling it to you and turning it around to, sell to other businesses. And then you have the other business where it makes sense to find things that you can actually sell direct to consumer or sell through a grocer or do wholesale deals with people that way. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. And so we'll say on the oil side, it was almost opportunistic. We were using this cold press of all things as a part of an aquaculture project. We were looking to make a high protein fish meal. And I realized, man, this almond oil coming out is phenomenal. And nobody was doing it. I did some research, and it was basically I could be the first mover in the market from, and I like strategic advantages. So that was, why we jumped into that business. And, it's been a completely new business model than our bulk commodity business, which has been fun to learn, but also frustrating of sorts. It's just learning a new business when you're the owner operator.
Right.
Expensive game, but at the same time, we make calculated risks. Haven't lost our proverbial behinds yet.
No, that's awesome. And what did you kind of found about this almond oil? You saw it was coming out, clearly you tried it. Taste was great. It works great. It's functional. So what have you kind of found out about this almond oil that maybe makes it different from a traditional cooking oil, or as far as maybe does it have a lower smoke point than most, or what are the advantages maybe over a traditional vegetable oil or something like that?
Yeah, it's actually got a pretty high smoke point. So we look at it, apples to apples with a refined avocado oil, which the Chosen Foods, the Primal Kitchen, those are all refined. They're naturally refined, better product than, the typical refined oil. So it has a higher smoke point than most oils, if not on par with avocado oil. So check that box there. Everyone wants a high smoke point. standpoint. But on the nutritional side, we actually match up and line up better than avocado oil. So, I think on the culinary side, it's a great versatile oil. You could use it 3 meals a day, fry your eggs in it in the morning, make a nice salad in the afternoon, and then baked goods and anything along the lines, sear steaks, vegetables, chicken, fish, asparagus in the evening. So it's been an exciting thing for us. It's an opportunity, but also a hurdle. The hurdle being nobody knows what almond oil is. The opportunity being that we're the first mover in this space and be the brand that's synonymous with bringing almond oil to the table and have some advantages getting to retail shelves and consumers' minds first. So we've learned it. We're starting to expand that. We might be throttling down with some exciting news later this year on brand partnerships and some retail partners.
Obviously, something that's kind of like a novel product, like an almond oil, that's kind of the first thing to hit the market. It's always a difficulty and a challenge to do the consumer education that's necessary to maybe get people on board with trying something different, especially in the oil space where there's nowadays 15, 16 different types of derivations of oils. So how do you kind of tackle that? Or do you have any plans to kind of double down with the education going forward through your socials or, anything even just maybe even on the labeling itself? How do you kind of handle that?
And we found a range of ways that work well, and some that don't. So we've used QR code neck hangers on there. Partnering with some influencers has been a learning curve. And so we've moderately invested across all of these ways. We see Instacart as a very valuable tool for our product and our brand, especially as Instacart refined its own platform and its technology. So ways to utilize outreach and education that you're looking at a singular budget as both marketing and a sales outreach. So we're excited about being able to tell that story and check these different iterations. Again, some of these little neck hanger QR codes have worked well. Using, the influencer model is not a bad model if done correctly. Partnerships, brand vision aligns with that influencer and their audience. We test all those waters. We take small bets before we take big bets. We like to throw a little out of the wall, see what works, and then finding something. And we have to look at, because our product's a premium item, it's in a glass bottle. So, on example for Amazon, we're not a cheap shipment because you're a heavier item and we're $16.99 on Amazon. So, we got to look at our calculations of, okay, Amazon's going to take a lot of money, heavier item. We look at long-term returning customer rates. And so there's all these metrics that, you can make yourself blue in the face by looking at all these. They are valuable tools if you can decipher them correct. So we use them.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And just to go back to byproducts group quickly as well. How do you kind of come up with these, obviously, using, byproducts, I guess you should say, how do you come up with the ideas why do you forge these relationships with creating ingredients for, I know you mentioned creating an ingredient for a type of dog food or a type of pet food. Where do you kind of get this research to come up with ideas or, forge these relationships with companies to want to source things from you rather than maybe their more traditional channels or lab grown stuff or chemical alternatives or something?
I think my biggest advantage there is that I've grown up in this valley, in this area. The majority of my friends growing up are farmers on Sunset, whether it's almond, walnut, pistachio, there it's sweet potatoes, pumpkin, watermelons, grapes. And so I have these relationships with these producers. And so I hear their pain points. I know what their excess waste points and pain points of their industry is. And it's if we can find a way to add value to that and eliminate the headaches that they have in their processing plant, that's our goal. And so we spent a lot of time being creative and iterating, okay, if this byproduct of sweet potatoes has this nutritional, okay, if we dry that product down, then that matches up with this nutritional in the pet food, and spend a lot of time, seeing if that can come to life. We do some test iteration, throw mud at the wall, like I had said, on the oil side of things, but also we have existing feed channels between cattle feed, dairy feed, bird food, and we can talk to those folks and see what their needs are, where their fits are, and then line it up. Because I do have a heart for all my buddies that are grower producers at the end of the day. And so finding a way to put more money in their pocket makes our industry more sustainable, and then just makes long-term our valley more economically viable.
I think the last thing I was asking you was just, you mentioned you have obviously connections around this area, a ton of farmers that are doing, cashews, nuts, and all kinds of things. So obviously, stronghold in this area to have those connections that way. So just curious, how do you come up with these product ideas to be able to resell these upcycled ingredients that you're getting? Where the ideas come from to turn them into products?
They start with the commodity. So we look at the nutritional value and then apply it across what channel we think we could sell. And obviously we have to look financial side and make sure that that'll pencil for whatever producer or product. So it starts with the base ingredient of, whether it's an almond, pistachio, walnut, or a sweet potato. It really boils down to the nutritionals of it, which again, that's a great part about being in this valley. everything we produce here has super nutritional value, whether you're talking for human consumption or for any kind of a pet food application as well. So work backwards from there and then kick it into where the most value is going to be extruded to.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one thing I wanted to ask you too was, obviously going from this like real B2B model with these ingredients you're creating through this upcycling process, with these byproducts, and going from that to getting into the, like real branded like product, working with wholesalers, distributors, and doing maybe even some direct to consumer on Amazon. What was like the biggest thing that you kind of had to learn when you made that transition into that side of things rather than doing the B2B like you do with the byproducts group?
It's funny. I was just before this, I was on a call talking about that similar understanding. So the biggest learning curve I've had is understanding distribution model and where retail margins come from. I have a bunch of buddies that are growers and say a round ballpark price is $2 that growers are getting for almonds. Their biggest question is, how is that $10 on the retail store shelf if we're only getting paid $2? And so as you peel back the layers of our food system, you understand where all these, we'll say margin points. You have your distributor, you have your retailer, you have any discount periods and couponing you need to do. And so it's like, it does trickle back down. I showed a model of this to a grower friend the other day who asked me that question. So here's where all this product and profit, needs to go, and where every touch point along the way, whether it's your broker, your distributor, or seller, and us ourselves as a brand, we need to make margin too. It really lays it out well. So that I went into this business without knowing that really well. I just knew I had a product that I wanted to see if there was a market fit with consumers. So we have a very deep understanding of those margins now. It does help us work backwards and educate growers on it, so they don't walk into Whole Foods or Rayleigh's and get pissed off that their grower margins are not reflected in what they're seeing on store. So, but we're also trying to help those returns. So we're fighting the battle on those sides.
It's definitely a similar experience I hear from a lot of CPG brands that come on the podcast, or just people I talk to, is that's always one of the biggest learning curves, is just like understanding, where all the costs are. I mean, however many times something changes hands, I mean, that's another 30-40% up and up and up and up. And, even if you do have control over some people just by happenstance, or, they just decide like they want to have total control over their own logistics and their own manufacturing and all that stuff, that kind of cuts into your stuff too. Like that's a big one-time expense if you own all that stuff. And, that's like a liability in its own right. So there's things where, like you say, when you peel back the layers, I think a lot of people have to learn that the hard way. So anybody listening, if you're looking to get into CPG, just understand some maybe you can figure out a little bit on the front end before you go too deep into, fulfilling orders and not realizing that your margins aren't clear and getting too deep into that. So I appreciate you sharing that. And so one thing I always love to ask, everybody that comes on the podcast, you watch any of my podcasts, you'll see I always ask this question is, I guess I'll keep this to the byproducts group side since you've kind of been doing that longer. If you go back to kind of your day one, getting into that business model, you can go back and give yourself one piece of advice, knowing everything you know now. What do you think that piece of advice would be? Business, personal, could be anything.
Yeah, quicker to hire and quicker to fire. I guess that's an HR question, saying that my human resources, my number 2, 3, and 4 behind me, need to be so in line and detailed that I've seen the value of outsourcing to my employees that are good, have been advanced, and we'll say promoted and paid more. And the ones that weren't keeping up, should have trimmed the fat quicker and got rid of them. But just in growing our business, seeing the power of other people coming together as a team to, we'll say, complete other tasks so we can grow the umbrella as a whole, so to speak. That's been our biggest learning lesson. So we have great employees right now. We're going to be growing our team throughout the next few years. And so bringing good team members that fit our organization and our, workflow. We want employees that want to work, that want to be there, work towards a great goal. We have a good time as an organization, but we also work. So my biggest advice, Vic, don't be afraid to hire quicker, and then don't be afraid to fire quicker.
No, it's fair enough. And you're probably not surprised to hear that's actually an answer to that question I get very, very often. I mean, whether you're hiring internally with employees or you're outsourcing certain things with advisors, or maybe an agency in certain situations. No, it's so true. I mean, seek out the help. If it's not working out, move on and try something else. It's the same with employees, the same with agencies, the same with advisors, the same with investors even sometimes. So I think it's really good advice for anybody, maybe thinking about starting their own business. Don't be afraid to take the help. You can't do it all yourself, and you can always pivot, if something's not working out in any of those relationships. So I think that's really good advice for anybody listening. And just want to give you an opportunity too, especially with your packaged good brand. Just let people know if they want to get in touch with you, they're interested in maybe partnering with you, that they want to try your almond oil. Maybe someone works in the industry, wants to get in touch and, learn more about your upcycling and the products you do through that. Let people know how to stay in touch with you.
Yeah. So my name's Tommy. You can find either Byproducts Group at Byproducts Group, Fresh Vintage Farms, same thing. Regardless of where you live, you can get our almond oil and our walnut oil on Amazon. If you're interested in good, healthy, nutritious oils, healthy fats, future, that's our tagline. So you've seen the rise of avocado oil in the last 10 years. We're going to do that with almond oil. So But yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, my emails, I think probably on both those websites. I love meeting other people in our industry or related industries. So always love having conversations.
Awesome, man. Well, Tommy, I really appreciate your time today, brother. Wish you best of luck and continued success. I love what you're doing. It's awesome. I love your passion. And yeah, I appreciate you again for coming on. Look forward to talking to you soon again, too.
Thanks for having me on. Have a good day.
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, everybody.